Hello, everyone, and all of you are welcome to the second episode of the Saurabh and PK show. We have a second episode now, PK.
This
People actually listen to the first episode.
a surprising number of people listened to the first episode. A surprise.
I know. So, thank you to our listeners. Let's get into today's story. The year is 1862, and India has been an official British colony ruled by the British, Empire themselves. So, we have transitioned from being under the East India Company, and now we are a part of the British Empire.
Raj, the British Raj.
Yes, we are part of the British Raj for 5 years, and we are under the Empress Victoria and Viceroy Canning.
I think this was after Jhansi Ki Rani started the first fight, and
Yes,
then they were like, okay, maybe we can stop being a corporation and start becoming a kingdom.
yes. So 1857, the massive. I think it will be the first fight of independence. What we the first rebellion or something, but for us, I think it was the first freedom struggle. So that happened. But on the 28th or 29th, I'm not sure, of August 1862 in Shivar, Rajasthan, Kaim Singh was born. He was born to the Thakur Sahib of Isarda. He was the second son.
What is it?
Kaim Singh.
Oh, okay. I heard it as time.
I couldn't find a lot about his father, but his family, they were close related to the kingdom and the kings that ruled Jaipur at the moment. So you can consider them as one of the noble houses. So there were noble houses in the last episode, so there's a noble house over here too. So somewhere around him being a teen, his father died, and the moment his father died, he and his elder brother had a massive fight.
It took them 11 years to actually fight with each other. Wow, these are not normal siblings.
I think they mean an actual documentary fight. उसके पहले कौन बैठ के लिख रहा था आज काइम ने अपने भाई के साथ झगड़ा किया ऐसा कोई कर नहीं रहा था ना.
करेगा यार, इवन बतूता नहीं था वहां पे.
So they had a massive fight and Kaim. So they had a fight basically over succession. So because these were the Thakurs, there's a line of succession that they have to follow in the noble chart. And I think the elder brother must have said something yada yada yada, and Kaim was thrown out, and he was exiled.
What was the elder brother's name called? It obviously doesn't matter because he's not been named and he's probably inconsequential. But
He does not have a name, so I couldn't find his name.
so much for throwing him out. इसका नाम भी नहीं है.
This episode was so amazing to research. I'll talk about it at the end of the podcast, and it was so good. There is so much source for the history of Rajasthan and Rajputanas. It was beautiful, but I couldn't find this guy's name anywhere, like anywhere.
It doesn't matter. We'll call him Tees.
We need not call him. He's gone. We won't see him ever again.
Oh, अच्छा कहानी में भी इसका. Okay, fine. Let's. Okay.
So Kaim then lived in poverty because he was 11. Where the fuck will he go? And he used to do small jobs here and there, and these are petty jobs basically. So किसी के यहाँ पे कुछ काम कर दिया, किसी यहाँ पे कुछ काम कर दिया, yada yada yada.
Where was the mother in all this? Like the mother was just like, हाँ बेटा झगड़ दी, एक बेटे ने घर के बाहर फेंक दिया. He is now a street urchin. चलेगा. He'll find a lamp. He'll get a genie. He'll also get a Robin Williams. मिल जाएगा. He'll be fine. Like what the fuck was the mother doing?
I don't think of course I don't think it is written anywhere, but I don't think his mother was alive. I think she also died. If she was alive, then this was a lot of bullshit that happened with him. So he was there. He was doing petty jobs, but then he met a brahmachari named Girdhar Sharan.
Okay, that sounds like a sage.
So his name is Girdhar Sharan, and he's a brahmachari. He's a Brahmin, and he took Kaim into his he made him a disciple. So now Kaim is with this brahmachari, and he's learning about things. He's learning about how life works. He's learning about how things work. He's also getting a place to basically eat. Now from here on, what happens to Kaim, we have no idea.
Okay, that's all, folks. That's all, folks. We've had a good second episode. Thank you for staying.
No, the podcast does not like fucking end, but we have no idea what happens to Karim.
With us, Red Bull, please sponsor us. See you.
So we don't know what happened to Kaim for some time. So there is no mention of where did he stay with the Guru, what did he learn, yada yada yada. But the next actual information about Kaim is that he's present in an army in a place. Don't laugh. In a place called Tong.
like please tell me that Tonk is just some poor village with some asshole dick king just passed through and he was like, I am the king of these lands. Your village had a distinguished, dignified name before, but now it's named Tonk. That's what you
So-
get for not being in my kingdom.
So Tong was a princely state. It was under the British Raj.
Acha. That was unexpected. Okay.
It was under the British Raj. It stands. It stood where Rajasthan and MP is today, and it was ruled by someone.
I'm just thinking here. I'm just thinking like they have this whole grand court area and then ऐसा the bachelor वाला version खेलते थे ना history में, and then the the trumpets blow and then the announcer is like घर का palace का butler वो announce करता है the prince of Tong.
Now I'll tell you the Prince of Tong's name. So there wasn't a Prince of Tong, but it was ruled by someone from the Holkar dynasty. So Holkar dynasty is a huge dynasty, and one of those people is being given Tong to rule. And
Obviously the least favorite.
good guess. So Tong was ruled by someone called Amir Khan.
See, we shouldn't laugh. It's a very common name. I don't think. Stop being so immature and childish.
Listen. So Amir Khan was the only Muslim ruler in the entire Holkar dynasty, and basically he was the only Muslim, sultan in the entire princely state of Rajasthan, and he was given a place to rule called as Tong. Now Kaim is over here. He's somewhere around 17, 18, and he has a good relationship with the actual king of the Maharaja of Jaipur. And he knows the Maharaja of Jaipur because he was a Thakur's son and they were a noble family, but also through his guru.
Oh.
So in 1880, the Maharaja was on his deathbed. And so the Maharaja did not have any kids. So what happened in this entire Rajputana system was, if you do not have a kid, if you do not have an heir on the throne, you choose a kid from the noble family around you. So usually there used to be one or two Thakur families, and one of their kids could take the throne by being adopted into the kingdom or into the king, into the entire king's family by the king. So for the king of Jaipur, the family would have been the Thakur of Thilai.
I am not going to be culturally illiterate and mock these
Don't.
names. I will be
Yes. So, but the Maharaja was like, no, I'm not going to choose from the Thakur of Thilai. I'm going to choose someone from the Thakur of Isarda. So the Thakur of Isarda is where Kaim was from. And this is how Kaim took on the throne of the king of Jaipur, and he was renamed to be called Madho Singh. And he was the second Maharaja. So his name, he was coronated and crowned Madho Singh the second, and he was the Maharaja Dhiraj of Jaipur.
what was wrong with Kai?
I don't know. You won't be like Kaim Singh, he's the Maharaja Dhiraj. It should be something fucking like full power mein, na?
They just wanted to
I think yes, this was his rebranding into a new product. And so Kaim Singh later married the daughter of Rao Budhpal. Singh from Umargara estate.
None of these names matter. None of these people.
Like he does a bit. From Umargara estate, Etha in UP. And in total, Kaim had 5 wives, and he.
Okay.
This isn't even the best part. He had 18 concubines. So basically, he had an. I don't know the most respective way to say it, but he had 18 girlfriends aside from his 5 official wives. And via those girlfriends, he had around 50 or 60 children.
That's cons-
So, Kaim was a good king. According to people, Kaim was a good king. He took the throne at 19 and he was very devoted to the throne and he was very devoted to his people. He had lived in poverty.
How did he get time to run his kingdom with 5 wives and 18 fucking concubines?
He did the 9 to 5 in the morning and then rest of his time went in.
Yes, but let's just examine this, okay? 5 wives plus 18 concubines. Now let's say every evening he took each of them out to not out to dinner. He's a fucking king. The dinner comes to him. Okay, chefs, restaurant, पूरा restaurant उसी के पास आता है. If the guy says I want to have elephant for dinner, he has elephant for dinner. So let's say he takes each of these women out to dinner. He's a nice gentleman, which I doubt. But let's say he does the, dining and drinks first. That would mean that 23 days would have to pass between his first wife seeing him iron. He would have to do this every day without fail. There's no ek din, Kaim is just like, oh, I need my me time. I'm going to have a, night with the boys. We're going to watch camel racing or some shit. Kuch nahi. How?
People say he was a good king.
I'll tell you how he was a good king. When somebody can learn how to manage 23 fucking wives and concubines. No shit. They're a good king. Because सबका expectation line में रखा है. किसी ने divorce नहीं किया, किसी ने इसका खून नहीं किया है. No one conspired to murder him or poison him. They seemed to be very...
How do you know no one conspired to murder him? Did I tell you what the story was for today?
If this doesn't end with the 18 concubines and 5 wives, all like giving him stabbing like Brutus, okay? Then the lesson hasn't been learned. There is no moral of the story here.
So under him, the policies of his predecessor, that was his adopted father, Maharaja Ram Singh II, were carried out, and he planned a very economic way of developing his nation. And Jaipur was in general doing good. And he was there were a lot of. I think this is something that I've said before also, that there are good monarchs, there are bad monarchs, but at the end of the day, you need to understand that they are monarchs. So for someone, they'll always be bad. For someone, they'll always be good.
I just realized something about Kaim Singh.
What?
He learned from his predecessor. See, the guy who died had no kids. So then this rando had to get it. So Kaim Singh is like, good, it worked out for me, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have 1 kid and 49 insurance kids. I have 49 backup kids.
Hold on to this. So he was extremely loyal to the British clown.
The British clown.
And a British clown. British crown.
Tonk the British clown.
I can call them clown. He was basically loyal to the British crown, but I think he was loyal to the British crown because they were the ruling party. They were very, they had a lot of power. He had to get anything done. He had to get it done through them, and he wanted to get things done.
Yeah.
So he assisted.
I don't think you have a choice.
I think, the best way forward is maybe being good with them and then using that influence to get shit done for yourself. So he assisted them in 2 wars. One was in Chitral, the second one is in Tirah, and he also helped them with the South African War. He, even after a lot of things happened, toward the end of his reign, he also helped them in World War I. So a lot of people from his army went and fought in World War I.
अच्छा, मतलब ब्रिटिश ने पूरा पैसा वसूल.
So he also paid for the World War One troops. So Britishers weren't paying. So he ensured that because they were his people, if they go, they should be paid. Now he's a good dude. He is loyal to the British. And on 22nd January 1901, the Queen of the United Kingdom, Great Britain, Ireland, and the Empress of India, Queen Victoria, passed.
Wait, did you say 1921?
1901.
Oh, okay. So like 120 years and 2 days before.
Yes. So on the 22nd of January 1901, the Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain, Ireland, and the Empress of India, Queen Victoria, passed away.
The Queen of the British Empire.
She was the Empress of India because East India Company fucked up and they wanted to get a lot of power on India because it was one of their largest holdings and stuff. So she was made Empress. So basically, she had this title of Empress. And he was one of the people who was affected by the news. He was one of the people who was called. I think we have telephones. I'm not sure, but basically, he was one of the people who was contacted via the crown that XX had happened, and you would be invited. So the throne is now succeeded by her son, and hers is the king of the entire British Empire, and his name is King Albert the Seventh.
Ah, yes, I remember this.
Now, I don't remember a lot of kings because Elizabeth has been sitting on the throne, I don't know, for like 700 million years now, and she's going nowhere. So I don't think we'll see a king soon. Please don't die. Please don't die after this happens. Please don't put us in a stupid position. Please.
See, at least Charles will thank us.
So,
Look at Charles here. मतलब बेचारा the dude has he's 70, right, at this point of time. He's over
I
70.
think
He's
so,
80 or
but this was something that I saw that day was her husband, Philip, Prince Philip. He'll always be a fucking prince only, but because he's not in the bloodline. So Prince Philip is 99 years old.
Oh, okay.
And she is, I think she's 94. So he's 5 years elder than her. Dude is going to be 100 next year.
Yeah, so ठीक है यार, चार्ल्स भी पहुंच जाएगा. मतलब by the time he's 99, he should be king.
I think so. I hope. I don't know. Who cares? I don't know. I don't understand their existence at all. But okay.
Let's go back to the kings who lived human-sized life.
Yes. So, the king of Great Britain, King Albert VII, had visited India, and there was a chance that he had met Madho Singh, so basically Kaim Singh, somewhere. And the Maharaja was one of the royal guests that was called for the king's coronation. Now, because the Maharaja was loyal to the crown and the king had his mother, the king's mother, that was the queen, had helped Madhurao in a lot of things, and she was one of the people he looked up to get stuff done within his kingdom and for the good of his people. It was very necessary that he was there because he was called, and if he did not go there, they would feel bad. Basically, I don't know, would they have people who would have to look after कि अरे ये royal आया क्या, वो royal नहीं आया क्या, अब हम लोग को बुरा feel करना चाहिए.
Definitely.
Because they must have invited so many fucking people, na?
Yeah, you can't forget Kaim Singh and his 23 significant others and his 50 children and their
So
children.
I think there must have been someone whose responsibility would have been just checking whether this person came or this person did not come. And if they did not come, now our relationships are bad. If they come, very good. Next time unka kaam aayega, whatever. So he had to attend this coronation. And planes are not invented right now. There's no plane. There's no flying and there's nothing. There's no way to do this. The only way to do this is via boat. Now, here's the issue. In Hinduism, I don't know if this is an, seeded belief because I couldn't find any textures for this. So there's nothing written कि ये ऐसा होता है. I don't know. Maybe this is true. But in Hindu, so the saying over here is that in Hindu scriptures, there's something called as Samudrolanghanan. So basically it is called...
Tripathi, I'm sure you scored the best in Sanskrit.
I did not take Sanskrit.
That's very...
So it was basically called the crime of Kala Pani.
You're from UP. You bragged about being from UP in the last episode. Your ancestors are looking down on you, and just the most disappointed looks are just gazing down on you like laser beams. I'll tell you from your POV now. Just imagine that you are one of those foreign biscuit tins that is filled with sewing needles, and the 9-year-old boy has just come and opened it after seeing the amazing as a Danish cookies on the side, and he opens it, and then that look of that face of sheer disappointment. That is, if you look up, that's what your ancestors are looking down on you after that pronunciation.
Fuck off. So it is basically called the crime of Kala Pani, and the offense is basically that if you cross international waters and if you have left the place where you live, you commit an offense. Now, all of this is basically, I don't know, there's a huge thing to go around and you can talk about it, but this is the basic understanding that I came out of was that the Indian...
wait, just hold on a second. So if I lived in 1901 and I went from Mumbai to Ajanta...
No. Ajanta Caves is not international waters. That is Mumbai waters.
If I went to Sri...
Yes, you're fucked.
I'm committing...
Yes. You have to be
by
God.
exploring the world.
Yes. You have to be God to go to Sri Lanka. Don't talk bullshit. Listen now why. So, it says, so in Hinduism, there's a reincarnation cycle, right? So now this reincarnation cycle is closely associated with our rivers. Because a river is what gives water. Water is how life is made. Then life grows, life dies. Everything goes back to the river. This is the general scientific concept that our ancestors... Our ancestors were super knowledgeful.
Why do our people shit in river?
Now, let's come back to that. So now, this entire cycle... they want to leave a part of themselves.
Yeah, I understand that everything is linked to rivers, but do we need to link every...
So now, I think the intended purpose was very beautiful. I think this is for every religion scripture that we have. The actual understanding of it was very beautiful in that setting. But now it is not that good because we apply that same literal sense into the modern setting and it just does not work. So the point is Ganga is one of those rivers, and if you're cut out of Ganga, you leave that reincarnation cycle. Then you have committed a sin.
What do you mean I'm cut out of?
So if you're in basic understanding is this, if you're in so I'm sitting in Mumbai right now, you're sitting in Chennai right now. The water we both are drinking is basically somehow linked from the same source. Because it is Indian water. Consider it in that way that it is Indian water. And every Indian water origins from some or the other river, and one of them is Ganga. And that is how the entire... So we basically are in that incarnation cycle because we're consuming the water and the things are going on. So if you go outside of, say, India, you won't have that water with you, right? To wahan jayega, there won't be Ganga, right? There'll be Thames, which is just as polluted, but that is not Ganga. So if you do that, you commit the sin of black water or Kala Pani. Now there's also something written called as the land beyond the black water, beyond the seas, where Hooglis. Now this is not the Hooghly river, that is Hooglis. Bad spirits and monstrous swines who could sometimes mask their true ugliness by presenting an illusion of physical beauty or superiority. They fucking called out white people and people from other countries through via religion.
I think they mean mom.
No, that is what you think. I think they mean white people. You think so? According to them, it is like, oh, if you cross ocean, and so there are bad spirited people who are monstrous swines and who can mask their true identity by presenting in physical beauty or superiority. I don't think mermaid comes and say that मैं तुमसे superior हूँ. Mermaid is like fucking I'm sinking, come here, I'm hot, I'll eat you. Finish it off.
Maybe they mean if you go to like Antarctica.
Maybe I don't know. So, but this is what it meant.
He at that point of time in the 1901, the ultimate symbol of beauty was a penguin.
Maybe.
But then वो penguin unzip करता है अपने skin को, and polar bear निकल के आता है और वो तुम्हें मार.
You have to make every fucking thing so weird. Now, now this will happen. So he can't cross waters basically. He can't cross international waters, and he has to come up with some jugaad to do this. Now he calls his entire military, for the people who are responsible for his military, his ministers, all of his mantris and santris.
You know, this explains. I always used to think, oh, we Indians are the most peaceful race. You know, that's why we didn't. That's why we were happy within our own, country's boundaries. We didn't want Mongols जैसे expand नहीं किया हमने. Except it was just superstition holding us back. If you go beyond this certain part of the sea, if you go 500 meters beyond this, then you will be cast away from the cycle of reincarnation.
But I think maybe we just we there was nothing for us outside of our country that we actually needed. I think we were just too comfortable in our country itself. Like we had everything we wanted.
I mean, we had everything really. We had good food, good clothes.
We had spices. We knew how to use spices. Like that is why most of the colonies came over here. Spices. We had spices. We had gold. We had. I don't know. There happened. Trade happened. We had the Silk Route going through India, and the Mughals were there. The Mongols were there, and people were coming inside India. So trade was happening. I think we were just too comfortable.
They weren't trading.
Who?
The Mongols and the Mughals weren't trading.
The Mongols traded lives.
Yes.
So, yeah, that happened. So, I think we're just too comfortable. So, anyways, so now he's called everyone and he's like, what the fuck should we do? I need a solution to this. Now, the Maharaja himself, so he's smart, huh? He's super smart. So, Maharaja and some of his people came up with the idea that what if the Maharaja carried the Ganga with him to London?
Sure. But
You have disbelief. You don't believe him.
No, I completely believe him. क्योंकि आजकल भी होता.
Now, the Maharaja decided that if he had to go to, say, London, and he had to stay connected to his roots, and he also not commit the sin of Kala Pani, he couldn't use any water for anything that he did that was from that place. So any of his needs, both mundane and divine, would have to be
There's no divine here. We know what we're talking about.
everything. So if he had to do puja, or
Indians
to go,
back then did not use toilet paper.
so if he had to go puja, or if he had to go pee and poop, he had to use Ganga's water. The Maharaja. So this is what the Maharaja's solution was. If there was a way, if he could take just Ganga's water and use it throughout his trip, it will be all okay. Now the Maharaja was Amir. He had a lot of money, so he chartered a brand new ship.
You don't need to mention that he's a fucking Maharaja.
Yes,
He's supporting 50 children.
So he had a brand new ship worth 1.5 lakh rupees. I couldn't find how much that was in today's worth, mainly because I was lazy, but I think it's a lot. 1.5 lakh rupees in 1901 is a lot of money. So he used in travel agency, okay, and the travel agency's name was Thomas Cook.
You have got to be fucking kidding.
He used Thomas Cook to book a brand new ship chartered just for him, and one of the ship's rooms was converted into a mandir, and he gave a strict ultimatum to all of the people on board that there'll be no non-veg made, and all of the food that is made and eaten on the ship will be made by the people of the king. So he got people along with him who will cook food, who will serve food, who will clean all of the plates. So this is an ideal Indian vegetarian household where one person is non-vegetarian, and
पर
that
एक चीज
dude.
बताओ, tell me one thing यार. See, he carried Ganga Jal for all of his needs.
हाँ.
But what about everyone else on board? मतलब just
Now we haven't come
screw
to
them,
the point,
condemn them to a life of no reincarnation.
but you haven't heard how much water he carried. Wait for that. So he
Please.
also brought along blacksmiths, he brought along carpenters, he brought along other craftsmen to avoid any work that would have been done by foreigners on his ship or for him. So now it comes to the point where you were saying Naki maybe mermaid. I don't think he's worried about fucking mermaids. He wanted them to touch nothing of his.
No, I still believe that he had a very strong sense of patriotism and a make in India attitude.
So now the task was to understand how will he carry so much holy water from here to there and back. So the Maharaja commissioned 3 urns. You know what an urn is?
Yes, people put their ashes in it. I mean, people don't put their ashes in it. Other people put people's ashes in it.
People fucking die. They put their ashes in it.
हाँ, तो you put someone's ashes, obviously they're fucking dead.
You said that people put their ashes in it. So I fucking die and I have to put my own ash in it.
देखो इतना भी कैपिटलिस्ट सोसाइटी में नहीं है, कोई कर लेगा तुम्हारे लिए. मौत में तो there is some rest.
So he commissioned 3 urns.
Can you really call those urns? Like, I feel
It's a
like
huge
more like
matka basically. It's a fucking huge matka.
this is like a cauldron with a lid.
So it is 4.5 meters in circumference.
Okay, and very shiny.
It's because it is made out of pure silver.
Of course.
Every one of those urns could hold 4,000 liters of water.
Just just for the more matter of fact members of our audience, just to illustrate how stupid this is. This man sailed across an ocean of water and he carried on his ship
This
12
isn't
tons 12 tons of water.
even this isn't even the best part of it.
Matlab, you know how we say that the billionaires are so eccentric, they're so lavish. You know how Ambani gets like every star under the earth to come and dance at his daughter's wedding. That still doesn't compare to carrying 12 tons of a fucking river's water across the planet. Did he take his 50 children and 23 wives and concubines?
I couldn't find it. I don't think he did.
I
Now-
think he must have. Lottery system रख के ऐसा 3 wives, 8 concubines, ऐसा कुछ तो ऐसा system लेके गया होगा.
Fuck, you're smart.
I am very smart.
Nice, I was coming to that.
I'm
Yeah,
also
so
unemployed, so if anybody is hearing this podcast and is willing to give a CTC of more than 6 lakhs in Mumbai, you can check me out on LinkedIn. PK Krishna. Shout out to PK Krishna. He's on LinkedIn. He's unemployed. Bachelor's in film technology, MBA in media entertainment.
part-time MBA.
Shut up. Full-time MBA. पूरा पैसा दिया है. For half the course पूरा पैसा दिया है.
Okay, so his ship was called
I can
SS
start.
Olympia.
I can start work next Monday. Okay, let's carry on.
His ship was called SS Olympia, and the ship left from Mumbai or Bombay with all of his necessities and his urns. The urns were put on the ship using a pulley system. So he developed the pulley system over there, and they used that to put this urn on the ship, and they leave. Now, somewhere around Aden. So Aden is a place. I think it is near South Africa.
Sure.
Let me check. Yemen. It's near Yemen, so it's not that far.
Did you say
So
Eden or
Aden, Aden, Aden.
because I'm pretty sure Eden is where God made like the first people. I don't know where that is. Africa में ही
No.
होगा.
So near Aden, it's near the Suez Canal. Okay, okay. So near Aden is where he entered rough waters. He also has a priest on board, huh?
Oh, of course.
Who's
You have a
that?
temple. Obviously, you'll have a priest.
So they entered rough waters near Aden, and he consulted a priest, and the priest said that one of the urns had to be tossed overboard to placate an angry Lord Varuna because everything was happening so bad. There was a storm coming in.
Ah, Lord Varuna was like, "You, how dare you hold my water? Return it to me."
But he did nothing. I think the storm went away after that. There's nothing written, but okay. So he dropped one of those somewhere in. I think it was somewhere in the Red Sea, and so it is still in the Red Sea. Huh? No one has found it. It's still there. So if someone does find it, we'll come to know about it.
What would you? Why? It's not even like a valuable treasure. It's
Oh,
literally lota. Okay, it's a gigantic silver lota.
so he threw one of those aboard, and he reached England. The mission was originally planned for June 1902, but it was postponed to August because the King Albert, who still exists, he went under an appendix operation, and so he Madhav Singh is there for some time, and he's still using the same water, yada yada yada. So after presenting the king with several gifts, Madhav Singh left for home, and when he left for his house, people were very, they praised him that he's a man who is so dedicated towards his religion and stuff like that. Smart man. So the Maharaja is back on Indian land, and now he's donating 25 lakh towards a foundation of a permanent All India Famine Relief Fund, and he's putting in new scholarships in places. He's doing a lot of work, and he's making sure that his people are good to go. Now,
Wait,
according to a lot
now
of
he made it back to India.
yes, he's back in India. He's good. He's doing good. Ensuring that people are. He also put in beds. He was one of those people. He was one of the few people who had a hospital made during his reign, which had X-ray machines and stuff like that. Early X-ray machines and things like that. Under him, he also opened free dispensaries so people could get things for free. He made medicine free for a lot of people, education free for a lot of people. He also had in forest administration. He was great with the farmers. Uh, I think he should have contacted maybe the last person about how not being good with the farmers does. They have nowhere to run.
Exactly. It's like the last episode was just full of bloodshed and violence, and then we come to this guy and his,
He's a
most
good man.
amazing.
He's a good
Yeah.
man.
Apart from taking 12 tons of water
I
across
think
an ocean
that is something
and, and bringing it back and hating white people.
he did not hate white people, but so he was according to a lot of scholars, he was the ideal Hindu Maharaja. He made a lot of progress in the state of Jaipur, and he was rewarded by the British for his loyalty. He was made a colonel of the 13th Rajputs. There was a lot of development that happened. He brought a meter gauge in Sangama to Savai Modhapur, which helped Jaipur get connected to a lot of commercial centers. So he is ensuring a lot of trade is happening, yada yada yada. Now he had 5 wives.
Yeah.
Now, but
I
even
think we've just mentioned that a couple of times.
he had five wives, but he did not have an heir to the throne.
What? He has 50 children.
They're not an heir to the throne.
How?
Because
They're all girls.
no, Baba. Because they are not actual. They are not his actual kids.
Are you telling me that all of his kids came from the concubines?
So there are a lot of writings which I found that said that he had some daughters. So he had, I think 3 daughters. This was there on the Rajputana website also that it somewhere had 3 daughters, and one of them was married and one of them died due to something. So I think he had daughters. But what we know is that he had no heir to the throne. So you couldn't have a queen. You had to had a Maharaja. So it had to be a guy. Now he had to choose from the Thakur of Isarda. He chose his
How?
nephew.
You're going to have to explain this because anybody listening is going to have. How do you have 50 children and not have an heir? Just after I said that, oh, this guy is so wise. He learnt on the mistakes of the guy who preceded him. The glass guy didn't have any. This guy has 50.
So, in the most respectful way possible, all of those children were bastards because they weren't his wives.
So he had 5 wives
Ha.
and he ignored all of them.
No, I think he did not have a male heir. So it says that he had 3 children, 3 daughters via them, but he did not have a male heir to the throne.
So the 18 concubines
Yes,
produced 47 children.
I think yes.
This man wasn't doing equitable distribution of his time. My 23-day theory has collapsed.
So no, okay. So he adopted 2 sons of the Thakur Sovai Singh of Isarda. Okay, so he has 2 nephews. He adopted both of them. In 1922, Maharaja Dhiraj of Jaipur. Last time a couple of people asked me that why did you say his full name? I think it's just respectful and people should know what their entire title was. So for him, it was in 1922, the Maharaja Dhiraj of Jaipur, His Highness Saramand Raja-e Hindustan Raj, Rajendra Sri Maharaja Dhiraj Savai Sir Madho Singh II Bahadur passed away. Give me something.
Parandur Kadambi Krishna.
So he passed away in 1922, and Kuwar Mukut Singh was crowned.
Again, not to be disrespectful, but okay, wait, he is a Hindu, he didn't have a gravestone. I was just thinking, if you have a gravestone and you have to have that
You don't
written
have
on
a
it,
gravestone.
like
No.
the guy who's making the gravestone just has to be like, okay, I have to reduce the font. I have to it can't be bold. Line
He's a
spacing
king.
kam
I
karna
don't think
padega.
he'll have a. He's a king. He won't have a gravestone. I think he'll have a fucking huge ass tomb.
No, the Hindu kings didn't do tombs.
No one.
Let's just assume he was poured into
Ha.
the Ganga.
Maybe. So one of his nephews, that was Kuwar Mukut Singh, was crowned the new king of Maharaja. He was renamed Savai Mansingh II when he took the throne.
How many
His-
children did he have?
I don't know. But his son, Maharaja Brigadier Bhavani Singh, is still the Maharaja Dhiraj of Jaipur.
Okay, that makes sense.
Done. So there are a lot of beautiful websites. Okay, I'll tell you the sources of those websites also. So there are a lot of beautiful websites, and those websites talk about Rajputana history. And one of those websites talked about how one of the sources said that maybe, so this is a super maybe, that he had, in reality, he had 107 children.
And he still couldn't find an heir.
Not official children, Papa.
So those 18 produced 104 children.
107 children. This is according to one source that.
No. Three were official daughters, right? So
No, 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 no. No, we are not counting his official children.
Okay, so
So he had 107 children.
just hold on. I'm just opening up my calculator.
107 divided by 18.
107. We are going to get a fraction. So
Five
एक आधा बच्चा रहेगा.
5.94 children is the average.
Yeah, so 5 kids per concubine.
Yes. And out of those, in 1935, 18 children were alive, and 18 sons of his were alive in 1985. This is the last known record of them. If it was, I'll note the sources down below. I won't say the sources this time because there's something else that I wanted to. I want to thank people. I think you should also do it. I think some people deserve a thank. So I'd like to thank Aritra. I'd like to thank Shreya. I'd like to thank Riddhi again. Then I would like to thank. I'd like to thank my brother, younger brother. I won't say his name because he does not deserve to be in the podcast, but I'd like to thank him. I'd like to thank a cousin sister who's been spreading this within her friends. He's getting us to a different audience. So thanks everyone. Thank you for actually supporting. I did not expect everyone to, actually support us and for us to actually get listens. Like 100 people listening to it is crazy for me.
Exactly, घर पे कोई नहीं सुनता हमारा.
हाँ, लाइफ पे कौन सुनता है? Do you want to thank anyone?
Sure, why not? I'd like to thank me. I'd like to thank PK. I'd like to thank Krishna. I'd like to thank my headphones for being there for me whenever I need them and actually functioning. I'd like to thank Utkarsh and Sharwani who actually listened to this entire thing. I think Shreya also listened to it, and Shreya's cousin sister Kuku, Simoni. I just follow Kuku. Whatever. Thank you for listening to this 1 hour long.
Yeah, it was 1 hour 15
Session.
minutes and all of it was content. This one I think will be like 45 minutes, which will be.
Yeah, we're going to chop it down.
Okay. Vedangi also heard the entire thing, so thank you, Vedangi. She's
Yes,
the one
thank you to Vedangi also for shouting us out. Thank you to everyone who shouted us out.
Yeah, who gave us a shout out.
The Chinese chairman Xi Jinping for letting Jack Ma free again.
Thank you. Who else? We'd like to thank Elon Musk for finally getting Tesla to India.
नहीं वो मुझे कहाँ पैसे दे रहा है. I'd like to thank anybody who finds my LinkedIn and sends me a connection request to the actual substance, not just to send me a survey.
I'll drop your LinkedIn in the description whenever I upload this episode. I'll drop your LinkedIn.
As you can see, we are very successful MBA students.
Yes, very successful. We don't have jobs. That's how successful we are. But thank you everyone. Thank you for listening to everything. We'll come back with a better episode next time.